بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وبارك على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد Alhamdulillah, in our previous lesson with Fajr Ta'ala, we completed the first chapter from these chapters of ʿUmdatul Fiqh, which was the chapter pertaining to the Tahara. The chapter pertaining to Tahara. And very quickly, why did we mention that in the majority of the books of Fiqh or Ahkam, you find that Kitab al-Tahara is the first chapter mentioned?
There's so many different areas and questions regarding it.
There's a lot of different masail regarding it, and what else?
And that you need to be in a state of tahara to do a lot of the acts of worship.
Specifically what though?
Salah.
The Salah. So Tahara is from the conditions of the Salah. Now, so to be in a state of purity is from the conditions of the Salah. And so this is why you find that Tahara is mentioned before the Salah, because the Tahara is a prerequisite for the Salah itself and a condition for the Salah itself. However, as for the difference between the Tahara and the other conditions is that with Tahara, you find that there are many masail that are surrounding it, many different issues that surround it, as we discussed, whether that be the issues regarding the wudu, or how the wudu is done, or what breaks the wudu, or what is water, what is considered to be pure water to use, or tayammum or ghusl, all these different masail, all pertaining to tahara, all pertaining to being in the state of purity, which then allows you to purify yourself for the salah. And so, bil-inzam, generally speaking, after going through Kitab al-Tahara, then the chapter which follows that is Kitab al-Salah. Now, that is fairly what is the chapter which follows in the book ʿUmdatul Fiqh. However, due to the fact that we are fast approaching the month of Ramaḍān, and no doubt the fasting will occur in Ramaḍān, and fasting, like any other action of ibadah, has ahkam surrounding it. And so, after some contemplation and deliberation, I saw in Allah Ta'ala's best that it may be fit that we go on to Kitab al-Siyam directly before continuing with Kitab al-Salah. So we'll continue with the same book, however we'll go on to Kitab al-Siyam, the book of fasting. As we mentioned, like anything in terms of ibadah, it's very important that we are well aware of the rulings of the action of ibadah, how to perform it. Because anything that is done, any action is done, has to be done upon basira, has to be done upon sure knowledge. And the affair of siyam, the affair of fast is no different. So with that we have the Kitab al-Siyam, the book of fasting, and the author mentions in Qudāmah raḥimahullāh, he mentions Kitab al-Siyam. And he mentions وَيَجِبُ الصِّيَامُ رَمَضَانَ لَكُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ بَالِغٍ عَاقِلٍ قَادِرٍ عَلَى الصَّوْمِ ويؤمر بالصبي إذا أعطاقه ويجب بأحد ثلاثة أشياء. Now, so before that, the siyam. Like anything, it's important to, when we look at a new affair, to discuss it from the first thing, which is what? Its meaning. Now, its definition is ta'rif. And so, siyam lughatan, barakallahu feekum. Siyam lughatan, linguistically, siyam is al-imsak, meaning imsak. It means to withhold. So siyam linguistically means to withhold from something, not necessarily food and drink, but to withhold and to abstain from something. An example of that is the siyam of Maryam. And the siyam of Maryam, in which she withheld from what?
Speaking.
She withheld from speaking. And that was referred to as a siyam. So this is general imsak, withholding. As for the definition of a siyam, يعني the siyam shar'an in the Sharia, there is al-imsak عن المفطرات يلي الكبيرة والصغيرة من طلوع الفجر الثاني إلى غروب الشمس. So معنية عفوا أيضا. So the first we mentioned here is that Siyam in terms of Sharia is mentioned with particular or some particular aspects. The first thing is that the person when they're fasting Shar'an, they withhold. Now they withhold, it's imsak b'niyatin يعني, b'niyatin ta'abud يعني. So they withhold with the intention of the ibadah. So they withhold with the intention of the ibadah. So for example, if you have a person, and this happens no doubt, this occurs, especially if maybe some of our lives that we lead where we live busy lives, and you go the whole day without eating or drinking. Now, could we now consider that to be a fast? And the person's ma'jur, is rewarded by way of that? No, because what differentiates the fast, the withholding from eating and drinking, yani lughatan, the siyam lughatan, from the siyam shar'an, one factor which differentiates that from that is the niyyah. And the person has to have the intention of fasting ta'abbudan, yani as an action of ibadah. That's the first thing. That's the first thing, barakallahu feekum. The second, as mentioned, so the first thing is imsak, withholding, with intention. The second thing mentioned is from the things that break the fast in the major capacity. The things that are called from the kabira. That which breaks a fast in the major sense. What we understand from the things that break the fast in the major sense, then this means that it's an action that if done, causes the person to nullify their fast. Meaning that if it's an obligatory fast, alayhi qada, upon them is to make up that fast. And Ahlul Ilm, on occasion, from the Shaykh al-Fawzān, mentions, in general, this is something which, if a person does it, it may strengthen the body or weaken the body, physically. Strengthen the body or weaken the body physically. And these are from the things that break the fast. So, barakallahu feekum, from the affairs that strengthen the body are the obvious, which is eating and drinking. So it strengthens the body by eating and drinking. This is something which breaks the fast and nullifies the fast. And as for the affairs that weaken the body, then that refers to what, barakallahu feekum? What weakens the body?
Overbleed. When you overbleed.
Overbleed, possibly.
Marital relations.
Marital relations. So if you cause anything to enter the body from eating, drinking, the likes of that, that strengthens the body. If you cause something to exit the body, in this case, many, then, or any action that causes that, from seminal fluid and the likes of that, then this weakens the body. This is understood to weaken the body. And so this also breaks the fast and nullifies the fast. And so this is why Ahlul Ilm differentiate between the one that vomits. Because you have a person, he may vomit due to two reasons. In a voluntary manner or involuntary manner. So a person, if he vomits in a manner which is voluntary, so he does it deliberately, then he's broken the fast. Because he's caused his body to become weakened. And he's done something to cause his body to become weakened. Whilst if the person does an action or he vomits, and it's an involuntary action, so it's not a deliberate action, but he vomits, then whilst his body may become weakened, it is not by way of his own action. It's not by way of his own action. Likewise, the same is true as well about eating and drinking. That if the person does so deliberately, then he strengthened the body deliberately. And so that's broken the fast. Whilst if he has not done so deliberately, then this does not break the fast. How can it be understood that the person eats a drink but he doesn't do so deliberately? He's forgotten. He's gone throughout the day and he's forgotten that he is fasting and he eats something. This is not a deliberate act of strengthening the body. And Allah Ta'ala knows best. So these are the examples of things that break the fast and nullify the fast in the major sense. As for in the minor sense, then what is that? The thing that nullifies the fast in the minor sense, or the lesser sense.
You're not rewarded.
So something that
will reduce your reward.
now renders the reward that from the person's fast deficient. So it renders their reward deficient. So it does not nullify the fast, but it renders the reward of that fast lesser. And so this is understood from the hadith of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he mentions, "Man lam yada' qawl az-zur wa 'amal bihi, laysa lillahi al-hajat wa la yada' at-ta'am wa sharab." That whoever does not leave off false speech and acting upon it, then Allah Ta'ala does not require for him to leave off his food and his drink. I.e., if the person does not leave off false speech and acting upon it, i.e., anything from muharramat is acting upon false speech. If the person does not leave this off, then it's as if him leaving off his food and his drink, i.e., by way of his fast, is futile. It's an action which does not carry as much benefit. And so the person withholds from anything which is from false speech, or actually from false speech and from muharramat whilst fasting as well, barakallahu feekum. Thereafter, he mentions that من طلوع الفجر الثاني. So من طلوع الفجر الثاني, from the sunrise, or from the break of dawn rather. Now طلوع الفجر الثاني, you have the first Fajr and the second Fajr. The first Fajr Haqiqi الثاني. Now, what's the difference between the first and what's the difference between the first and the second one? What's the difference between the first Fajr and the second Fajr?
The first one's false.
First one's false. Now, that's one very big difference.
Second one's true.
And the second one is true. Now, tell you what other differences.
The first one is for short temporary.
The first one is what, sorry?
A short temporary time.
Short amount of time, okay. And the second one?
This one.
No, something else though.
It's the first one when the light first appears.
No.
ربما الثاني اللي تبين فيه الخيط الأبيض من الأسود.
تخيل الخيط الأبيض من الأسود يقول لك كيف؟
يعني يكون الضوء واضح.
الضوء واضح. والأول غير واضح؟
الأول بيكون قصدي يعني أقل في المستوى الأفق.
أيوة، لكن الفرق ما نقول أن الفرق يكون في الوضوح. So we say that there's not actually saying necessarily the difference is how clear it is. The light. Something about the direction of the light.
The first one is coming up vertically.
The first one is
The light is coming up vertically.
vertical. So the first Fajr, the light is vertical. So it's the false dawn, as they call it. And the Fajr, the second Fajr, which is the true dawn, The light is
Horizontal.
horizontal. Now, and this is how you differentiate between the two. Now,
Just one. Just go back to niyyah. If it is a continuous fasting, for instance, someone is doing Dawood's fasting.
No.
Dawood, so he's fast day by day. Is it
No.
essentially just to mention niyyah every day,
No.
every time he fasted?
خلاص. We'll come to that inshallah actually.
Definitely.
Now, I don't know. It's good you reminded me because I maybe would have forgotten.
Niyyah at the beginning.
Now, we'll come to that after we finish this. Or I will come to that. Jazakallah khair. So the Fajr al-Thani is that where the light is horizontal. Now it's horizontal, and then of course then thereafter it comes to get lighter and lighter throughout the minutes into the hours. So, and then finally it mentions to the ghurub al-shams until the sun sets. Now until the sun sets. And so this is the definition of the fast in terms of the Sharia. It's the definition of the fast in terms of the Sharia. And so it's not just merely withholding from something, withholding from food and drink, as mentioned. It's very important to differentiate that you withhold from particular actions as well as withhold from muharramat as well. Now, in order for the person to establish that their fast is one of khayr. Hence why Allah Ta'ala, when He states, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. He says, oh, you believe, indeed the fast has been prescribed upon you, just as been prescribed upon those that come before you, so that you may attain by way of it taqwa. What we understand by way of that, barakallahu fikum, is that the taqwa is attained by way of the person's fast. However, a person cannot attain taqwa unless they are performing the fast ala wajh sahih, yani ala wajh shar'i. They are performing the fast in a manner which is correct and in a manner which is in accordance with the Sharia. In a manner which is correct and in a manner which is in accordance with the Sharia. Barakallahu fikum. So, going back now, Jazallah Khair, as he mentioned, the affair of the niyyah. And it's something which is asked and mentioned regarding Ramaḍān. So first thing we'll talk about is Ramaḍān. And the discussion is about when do you make the intention to fast. So is your intention one where you make the intention at the beginning of Ramaḍān and that suffices you for the 29 or 30 days of Ramaḍān? Or is it that you have to make the intention every night before you fast?
Every night before each fast.
Every night before each fast.
Difference of opinion between the scholars. Some say that it's
Sorry?
difference of opinion between the scholars.
This is an opinion between the scholars. That's whole book. No.
Some
So
say
what are you saying?
Allahu A'lam.
Of course, Allahu A'lam. Allahu A'lam indeed. But what are the what's the aqwal?
So some say that at the beginning of Ramadan, the intention that you make is sufficient.
At the beginning of Ramadan, intention is sufficient. Okay.
And then others say that every night you should make that intention.
Every night you should make the intention.
To fast the next day.
No. So you said every night? You're saying
On the fence.
you're on the fence?
Just the beginning of Ramadan.
Just the beginning of Ramadan?
Maybe just one niyyah should be fine for the whole month.
So you're saying the same? Just one niyyah at the beginning of Ramadan, yeah?
Yeah, for the whole month, yeah.
Just one niyyah at the beginning of Ramadan, okay? Any other takers?
Maybe I'm not sure.
So you have a jama'ah, we say that's...
What if you fall ill or something like that?
Okay, what if you fall ill?
You have to review your intent.
Anyone else? So, essentially, it is somewhere between the two. And what Ramaḍān mentioned is a lot of time was best by the closest to the haqq. That the reality is that when you make the intention, once you know Ramadan is approaching, the reality is you're going to make the intention to fast the whole Ramadan. Now, and this is the kalam of Shaykh raḥimahullah. Shaykh he mentions, raḥimahullah, that when the person approaches Ramadan, he makes the intent to fast the whole month for Ramadan. So that intent is there. So it's not a case of Ramadan approaches and they make the intention of fasting this day but not that day. No. They make the intention to fast the whole month for Ramadan. And so due to that, the fast is sufficient. Or the niyyah of the first, the beginning of Ramadan suffices. Does that make sense? However, if for whatever reason they break that fast in the middle of the month, i.e. to one of those days they do not fast. Yeah, and then of course we're referring to the one that does not fast due to udhr shar'i. So he has a legislated reason not to fast. Now there's a legislated reason not to fast. Then, in this scenario, when he begins to fast again, then he must renew his intention at that point. Now, so if the person fasts throughout the whole month, then the niyyah at the beginning of the month is sufficient. However, if the person breaks the fast, now at any point during the month, then he has to renew that intention when resuming fasting again. Make sense? This is the Kalam of Shaykh maybe. And the reason why individuals mention that the fast must be done, or the intention must be done before every night, is due to the mentioning of the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, that the person makes the intention the night before the fast. Now, the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam mentions the mention of making the intention the night before the fast. However, we have another narration as well, in which it mentions that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam inquired if there was tamr within the home, like something to eat within the home, and it was during the day. And on finding out that there was no food, he mentioned that due to that, as a result, I am fasting. He decided, I am fasting. So how do you understand these two narrations about Prophet?
That's only for the optional fast.
That's only for the optional fast. So only for the optional fast, does he do what?
To make the niyyah when you wake up.
The niyyah can be made during the day and doesn't have to be made during the night. So for the optional fast, the person can make the niyyah during the day and does not need to make it during the night, the previous night. However, the obligatory fast, then the person must make that intention the night before, unless we're referring obviously to Ramadan, when he makes the intention before the days of fasting. So, what is an example of the obligatory fast other than Ramadan, where a person would have to make the intention the night before? So we ascertained when it comes to Ramadan fast, before Ramadan, the night is sufficient. Now, make that intention. What other times would they have to make the intention the night before? What other obligatory fast?
When you have to make up for something. When you have to make up fasts.
For what? Make up fast for?
Ones that you don't.
Ramadan.
Yeah.
Now, a Qudāmah. So that's one example. So we're making up a fast. We're making up the fast for the fast that you missed in Ramadan. Then this is an obligatory fast. So if a person was to make up those fasts, he has to make the intention the night before. Another example.
You took an oath or one? When you took an oath.
He took an oath.
Yeah,
He took an oath to fast. If he takes an oath to fast, it means it binds upon his obligation. He makes the intention the night before. Another example. The one last one. Kafara. Where he seeks to expiate something from previous, maybe expiate an oath or any form of expiation, then this is an obligation. And so, in this scenario, the intention is made the night before. So then going back to your question, your question was about now, the Siyam of Dawood alayhi salam. Based upon that, based upon what is mentioned from the Adillah, then it wouldn't be obligatory for him to make that intention before. Now, in terms of beginning of that fast. However, if he does so, fala ba's. But he can make the intention during the day of each fast if he wanted to.
مثلا هنا مثلا من نوع مثلا على سيدنا صيام سيدنا داود ما استطعت إلى ذلك سبيلا تكفي.
يعني إذا نوى ذلك يعني
نعم.
فليكفي، يكفي له.
يعني تكفي نية واحدة فقط.
أي النية واحدة تكفي له.
جزاك الله خير.
لأنه الأهم شيء النية. إذا نوى نوى الصيام ونوى الصوم الداود ونوى على هذه الأيام فهذه النية تكفي له إن شاء الله.
ليس نطقا، ليس النية مش نطقا باللسان.
لا شك، لكن النية ما يكون من القلب ولا يكون من اللسان. لا كما يكون بعض الناس يعني قبل الصلاة نويت أن أصلي كذا وكذا، هذا لا شك ليس من السنة ومن البدع. أو تجد أحد يقول نويت أن أصوم كذا وكذا، لا يعني ينطق باللسان، فلا هذا ليس من السنة والبدع.
النية محلها القلب.
محله القلب لا شك. No. So it's mentioned that the niyyah, the person can state the niyyah, or the person can have that intention. However, they don't, obviously we mentioned, doesn't state it upon the tongue. No, and it's from the heart. Now,
So, you know, the voluntary fast, if you were to make an intention during the day, would you get the reward for the full day? Or
yes, you get the reward for the full day because you fulfill that condition of the fast sharing. Even though you hadn't intended to fast, maybe intended to fast at the beginning of that day, but you fulfilled it. No, Wallahu a'lam.
Ustādh, is that the same for the specific days which you mentioned? So, for example, Ashura or Arafah, same.
The same thing. No, it's voluntary fast. Wallahu a'lam. Now, and so this is the siyam shari. Another example of a siyam as well is the siyam of the siyasiyin. The siyam of the siyasiyin, yani political fasting. You don't know what that is referring to, political fasting.
Is that like when a prisoner doesn't eat?
Yeah, hunger strike, essentially. Now, a person goes on hunger strike. So they withhold from eating and drinking, and they withhold from this due to what they regard as being a cause which is a worthy cause, as to bring attention to a worthy cause. Now, and Shaykh ʿUbayd raḥimahullah, he mentions in relation to such a fast, then he says that صيام السياسي ليس من الشرع بل هو من قتل النفس. So this particular hunger strike, as it was referred to, is not from the Sharia, rather it's from the affair of qatl al-nafs, i.e. killing oneself. And this is, as we mentioned, something which is not from the Sharia, so the person, of course, he avoids that. Then Ibn Qudāmah mentions, raḥimahullah, that the siyam of Ramadan is an obligation upon every Muslim, baligh, aqil, qadir as-sawm. ويؤمر به الصبي إذا أطاقه. And so, the siyam is an obligation upon the Muslim. So from the first conditions of fasting, of the fast of Ramadan, is that the person is Muslim. Now, and so, some mention, they mention that the siyam is not an obligation upon the kafir. That the siyam is not an obligation upon the kafir. And some mention that it is an obligation upon the kafir. However, in order for the fast to be a fast which is correct and ma'jur, the one which is a fast which is rewarded, then of course the person needs to be Muslim. And you find that sometimes you may find an individual, he's a kafir, and he may start fasting. You find this in people. Sometimes they say, "Oh, I've got a Muslim friend at work." He says, "I've got a Muslim friend at work, Muhammad, and I'm going to try and fast with him." He does some fasting, so I want to see how it goes. I'll do the fasting with him. So the reality is, he could do so, but he's not fulfilling that first condition, which is that he has to be Muslim. Has to be Muslim. However, whether the fast is an obligation upon him, then this is a different discussion altogether. And what do we say? Do we say it's an obligation or not? It is an obligation. It's an obligation for the kafir to fast. Yeah, so I think I had to sign some notes as well. So yes and notes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
He's kafir.
He's a kafir, yeah?
I don't think so. لا أعتقد ذلك.
ولا يعتقد. قال خان أخونا لا يعتقد. Doesn't think he has to. But a lot of most of you said yes. Why?
You have a lot of Muslims who turn around and say, my manager fasts, and he gets all his children to fast, and they come with the angle that, not with the angle to gain taqwa, they come with the angle to say, we want to feel the, like people who are starving and feeling.
Muslims you're talking about?
Non-Muslims.
Non-Muslims.
So
That they,
the Muslims preach to the non-Muslims.
the Muslims tell the Muslims tell the non-Muslims, okay?
You need to fast because
Okay.
it makes you aware of what the people who are hungry feeling like, and that's a wrong angle. That's obviously a wrong angle to come from.
Oh, so they tell them that the reason you should fast so that you can understand what it's like to be hungry
Yeah, 100%.
and to starve.
Yeah, and they come with
No.
that angle as well.
And then the non-Muslim will fast for that reason.
Yeah.
So
That's one that
that's true. It's true that happened. But then would we say that it's obligatory for him to fast
no.
Yeah.
based upon that?
Not based on that.
Not based on that.
There's an ayah, isn't there?
Is there?
So definitely.
Okay.
They'd be punished for not praying and not fasting.
You're asking me, telling me.
That's what the ayah says, I believe.
No. No.
الصيام ركن من أركان الإسلام والغرض منها هو التعبد يعني بغض النظر إذا كان هو الشعور بالجوع أو كذا هو في حد ذاته عبادة.
نعم لا شك الركن من أركان الإسلام
لا
الصيام.
إذا كان هو كافر يعني بيتعبد بالصيام.
لكن هو يعني شوف هنا هذه الصورة هو كافر
نعم.
لكن يصوم على وجه شرعي يعني يمسك من طلوع الفجر الثاني يفطر يعني من غروب الشمس
كفار يعني؟
كافر يعني كافر
لا قصدي صيامه كفارة يعني مثلا.
لا قصدي صيام رمضان مثلا طيب
نعم.
من طلوع الفجر الثاني غروب الشمس إلى غروب الشمس ويقصد الصيام وهو يعرف هو رمضان وهو كافر يعني هو يقول عني اسمي جون.
أعتقد في حالة واحدة.
ها؟
أعتقد في حالة واحدة. إذا كان بين المسلمين ولا يشعر ما يشعرش بإفطاره فمضطر أن يصوم معهم.
هو مضطر يعني؟
نعم. إذا كان بين المسلمين.
فأنت تقول يعني في الحالة يعني هو مضطر يعني فقط.
إذا كان مضطر يعني إذا كان مثلا مسجون مثلا
وهو ساكن فيما بين المسلمين.
مقيم بين المسلمين أو مثلا مسجون عند المسلمين ومضطر أنه يفطر يأكل معهم ويفطر معهم.
طيب. The Prophet said that he's forced. The only time it's upon the kafir to do so is if he is forced. So he's living amongst the Muslims, for example. Now, and he has to fast. Or he's imprisoned. So he has to fast. He's imprisoned in the Muslim land, for example. But he's a kafir. Now, and so he has to fast for that reason. But Mahmoud, you're saying he has to fast anyway.
Yeah, I believe there's an ayah that.
Now, what's the ayah? أسألكم في السكر. So, this ayah in which the people of Jahannam are asked, and it's understood that these people of Jahannam are the kuffar, and those that are mukhalidun fi nar. And they ask, what has caused you to enter the fire? And what has caused you to be from those inhabitants of Jahannam? And they say, what? لم نكن من that we are not from those established as Salah. So from the reasons that they've entered the fire and for the reasons for their punishment is because they have not performed the Salah. Ma'annam kuffar. Whilst they're kuffar though. So what we understand from that, and a lot of the time goes best, and I believe this is the strongest opinion, is that the kafir is upon the kafir is the rest of these wajibat. So all the wajibat are upon the kafir. And so, whilst he's not performing his wajibat, he is susceptible to being punished for that as well in the hereafter. And so, from his wajibat, no doubt, is the fast of Ramadan. So him not performing the fast of Ramadan can be a means of his punishment in the hereafter. However, when we're talking about the fast as or is Islam as a condition, we're talking about it as a condition for him to be rewarded for the fast. So these are two separate things. Him being rewarded for the fast is one thing, and him being the affair of the fast being obligatory upon him is another. So it's possible that it's obligatory upon him, but he's not rewarded for it because of his kufr. I know that this is an indication as well of the evil hal, and the hal which is غير محمود, the hal which is مذموم, the lowly scenario of the kafir, where the kafir, upon him his actions and he's not performing his actions, and he may be susceptible for the punishment as due to him leaving off these actions. Wallahu a'lam. Thereafter it mentions as well after the Muslim that he's baligh, that he is baligh, so that the person has reached puberty يعني. سن الحلم أو يعني يكون من سن الحلم أو يعني في علامات أكثر من ذلك. نعم، إما تكون مع المرأة الحيض مثلا، أو سن الحلم يعني 15. نعم. فالبلوغ يعني once the person reached the age of puberty or reached the stage of puberty, then this is when the person at that point must begin to fast. It's obligatory for them to fast. Then you have the other condition, the person is aqil. The individual is aqil. Aqil meaning that they are not what? Insane. No, they're not afflicted by junood, insanity. And thereafter as well for the conditions is the one that is qadir ala sawm, the one that has the ability to fast.
Healthy and fit. You mean healthy and fit?
Now, this is my next question. The one that's qadir ala sawm, then the one that has the ability to fast, there are two types. Now, or rather, should we say, the one that does not have the ability to fast are two types. They're the one that does not have the ability to fast, and this is something which is daim. It's something which is continuous. So they continuously do not have the ability to fast. Then you have the one that does not have the ability to fast, and it's mu'akkad. It's something which is temporary, for a temporary period of time. So the first one is an example of who that doesn't have the ability to fast at all. No.
قصدي اللي عنده حالة مرضية مثلا مستمرة تمنع من الصيام.
من؟ مرض مستمر. Now, so the one that has an illness and it's an ongoing illness. Now, ولا يرجى له العلاج, and it's not expected that there's any cure for that illness, or that they're going to be cured for that illness at any point close by. Now, so we have the one that has a long-term illness, so what they refer to as chronic illness, and a chronic illness where it prevents them from fasting. Because some people may have a chronic illness, but it doesn't prevent them from fasting. So it's not just the fact that they have a chronic illness and so that they don't ever fast. Now, rather it's a chronic illness, but that illness must be something that prevents them from fasting. So, what are examples of someone where they do not fast, but it's mu'akkad? It's something which is temporary. They're not able to fast, it's temporary. Traveller, no. But they're qadir, so it's not really necessarily traveller. Because they have the ability to fast. It's a traveller. Short-term illness. So when they have a short-term illness, so then that prevents them from fasting. Short-term illness. Haid. Yeah, the menstruating woman. as we discussed previously when we were discussing the Kitab or the Bab al-Hayd, the chapter referring to the menstruating woman, that she's prevented from fasting. Who else? Hamid, the one that's pregnant. The pregnant woman as well, prevented from fasting. Who else? What happens after pregnancy? What happens before that? Postnatal bleeding now. So the postnatal bleeding, as Abu Shaykh as well mentioned, you have the breastfeeding as well, that this can prevent the woman from fasting, and this is something which is temporary though. Thereafter it mentions وَيُؤْمَرْ بِهِ الصَّبِيِّ إِذَا أَتَاقُهُ, and the child is commanded to fast if they have the ability to do so, if it's within their ability to do so. And what's the hikmah with this? In order to command the child to fast? Now, tamrinan, as an action of getting them used to it. Now, so it gets them acquainted with the fasting as well, and how the fasting is done. So this is why the child is commanded to fast. حتى يتعود يعني. Thereafter it mentions ويجب بأحد ثلاثة أشياء. Now, and then it is understood that there's an obligation with particular affairs, 3 affairs. And the first, and in terms of establishing Ramaḍān, is that the person is that the month of Sha'ban is completed. So the month of Sha'ban is completed, and so due to that, then we understand that this is the beginning of the month of Ramaḍān. And when the month of Sha'ban is completed by how many days? 30 days. This is 30 days بإجماع. The consensus in that regard. Or the رؤية الهلال الرمضان. Or that you see the hilal. So you see, it's by way of seeing the crescent, the moon for Ramadan. And so the person sees the moon for Ramadan. And this is by way of what? How do people need to see the moon, the hilal? Naked eye. How do you? 3, 2, 1. None? No. So we have 3, have 2, have 1 for the month of Ramadan.
If he's known to be trustworthy, if he's known to be trustworthy,
if he's known to be trustworthy,
1 will suffice.
1 will suffice. So you agree? Yeah. Now it's 1. So the shahada of 1, trustworthy, yani adlan. So if it's 1 trustworthy individual, صام الناس بقوله. Now, and the proof of that is the narration found in Sunan Abi Dawud, where there's a narration of Ibn Umar رضي الله عنه قال تراءى الناس الهلال فأخبرت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أني رأيته فصام وأمر الناس بالصيام. So the people were seeking out the hilal, seeking out the crescent for Ramadan. And I informed the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I refer to who? Ibn Umar. So I informed the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that I saw the hilal. And so thus he, alayhi salatu wasalam, fasted himself and commanded the people to fast. So he fasted himself and commanded the people to fast. And so this is how, likewise as well, we established the fast for Ramadan, that the month of Ramadan has begun. So we have the shahada of one which is adhān. And thereafter, Ibn Qudāmah mentions, وَلَا يُفْتِرُ إِلَّا بِشَهَادَةِ الْعَدْلَيْنِ. And you do not break the fast except for the shahada, the witness of two trustworthy individuals. And breaking the fast referring to what? Eid. Now, it's not referring to breaking the fast of the day, because obviously we don't need the witness for that. Why? As you suffice with the sunset. If it's on a day-to-day basis breaking the fast, you suffice with the sunset. But if we're talking about breaking the fast, i.e. the break of the fast of Ramadan, i.e. the Ramadan has come to an end and Eid has begun, then you need the shahada of adhān. You need the shahada of two trustworthy people. Now, and then the proof for that is a hadith. Now, which is a hadith found in Sunan Nasa'i. It's a hadith of Abdurrahman ibn Zayd ibn Khattab. عن أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال صوموا لرؤيته وأفطروا لرؤيته فإن غم عليكم فأقبلوا 30 فإن شهد شاهدان ذوى العدل فصوموا وأفطروا. And so it's mentioned Abdurrahman ibn Zayd ibn Khattab mentions that he narrates from the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, fast based upon his viewing and someone's viewing it, and break the fast based upon it being viewed as well. And if it's not become clear to you in terms of the ru'ya of the seeing the hilal, if it's not become clear to you and it's something which has been hidden from you, then conclude or complete 30 days. And if two individuals, two trustworthy individuals, view it, view the hilal, then you fast or break the fast. Begin the fast of Ramadan or break the fast. And this is a hadith which is found in the Sunan of Nasa'i, as we mentioned. Just a quick point here as well about the narration. The narration mentions, it's a narration of Abdurrahman ibn Zayd ibn Khattab. Now, Tabi'i. Okay? And he mentions that I narrated from some of the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, he doesn't name them. So, would this not now represent a weakness within the narration? Because generally speaking, of course, in the Isnad, everyone has to be named. Is that true? No. You have to name everyone in order for this Isnad to be a Qawi Isnad. Like anything. If I said to you, for example, there's this particular ruling, but I heard it from a man. Was it named him? Did it say who he was? Ibn Fulan, whoever. Just I heard it from a man. Then of course it would render that what I'm narrated to as having some form of weakness. But here, it doesn't mention who he heard the narration from. So is this regarded as being a weakness in the narration? No, why?
All Sahabis are trustworthy.
Because he mentions that I narrated it from a companion, from the companions. So as soon as he mentions I narrated from companions, and he himself is trustworthy. So what he's mentioning is believed and understood. So if he's saying that he's narrated from a companion, we understand he's narrated from a companion. And because all of the companions are trustworthy, then the fact that they're not named does not harm the narration in any way, shape, or form. Does that make sense? It doesn't harm the narration, or it doesn't render any deficiency in the narration. Why? Because they're all companions. And they're all trustworthy, rather. So within the narration here, it mentions the witnessing of the hilal by two individuals, two trustworthy individuals. So two trustworthy witnesses. And so we understand that this affair is concluded with two trustworthy individuals. Barakallahu feekum. In terms of breaking the fast. So, why is there a difference between the fast, beginning of the fast of Ramadan, which requires how many?
Just one.
One. And ending the fast of Ramadan, which requires how many? Two. Why is there a difference between the two?
The hadith that you mentioned now, فَصُومُوا أَفْطِرُوا, so that would indicate that it's two, but the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, that indicates that it's one.
Now, so the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar indicates that it's one. One for
the beginning of Ramadan.
Now.
And the one that you mentioned now
indicates that it's two.
Yeah.
For what? For both, you say?
So you would indicate that if it wasn't for the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar for
No.
the beginning of Ramadan.
So essentially, yes. That the hadith of Ibn Umar mentions that the fast is here with him, for the people of the fast, or the beginning of Ramadan, that was sufficient for the people to begin fasting. However, there's no narration that mentions that people stop fasting upon the call of one person. Rather, what we have is the mention here in this narration where you need two people. My question though is, why? Why is it one for the beginning of Ramadan and two for the end? Now.
إذا كان أفطر الناس في ولا زال رمضان يترتب عليه كفارة يوم.
نعم. لكن يكون الجواب إن شاء الله أبسط من ذاك. أبسط. جواب بسيط بإذن الله. والله أعلم.
هو صعوبة رؤية الهلال؟
لا.
نهاية الشهر.
نهاية الشهر؟ أيوة. No, Allah. Anyone know? What's the difference between the two? Or why there's a difference? There's a difference made between the two.
Is it because if you've made a mistake, when for the two, if there was only one person and they've made a mistake?
For the two, I thought she said for the two.
Yeah, if there was only one person.
No.
Even, however, if he goes into error in his view.
No.
Everyone would follow the same.
No, essentially similar to what the Prophet said. No.
Is it because it'd be less of a problem if you fasted a day that you should have, rather than you didn't fast a day that you should have?
Sort of. It's more like I said to the Ramadan. It's more simple than that even. Afwan? The default is that we should be fasting. No. The answer essentially is that when you view the hilal for the beginning of Ramadan, this is you entered into ibadah. So for the dukhul al-ibadah, there's less of a requirement. So there's less of a requirement for you to begin ibadah. Now, the ibadah being the fast of Ramadan. As for you leaving ibadah, leave off the fast of Ramadan, then there's more of a requirement, there's more that's required. So the first of the viewing of the hilal for the beginning of Ramadan, then this is entered into ibadah. So there is less of a requirement. However, for you to break the fast, I begin Eid and begin Shawwal and end Ramadan, then you have left an ibadah, action of ibadah, left essentially a rukun. So there is a greater and a higher limit and a higher requirement and requisite in order for you to stop the act of ibadah. That makes sense. And so hence this is the distinction between the two, and Allah Ta'ala knows best. Alhamdulillah, we'll conclude with that. Jazakumullah khairah. Wa barakallahu feekum.
Jazakallah anna kul khair.
Wa iyaakum Shaykh, hayakallah. Wa sallallahu wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Na'am.
I'm not sure if this is going to come up in the later topic, but
No.
what's the ruling with regards to an individual opening up? There's two questions for this. An individual
There's
having
two?
a food shop, yeah. This,
Okay, mashallah.
an individual having a food shop
Having a food shop, okay.
in a non-Muslim country, like the UK right now.
Okay.
Yeah. And someone working in it during the time of Ramadan, specifically the time where you have to fast. And is there difference of opinion? And if there isn't, what's the ruling to the
So the first question is about opening a food shop, second one is working within that food shop.
Yeah, in a non-Muslim country.
Okay, and I'll give you a third one as well, delivering food.
Yeah.
And then that my first one. Right? So, essentially, first and foremost, in order to understand and Allah Ta'ala knows best the ruling upon all three of those questions, we'll have to go back to what we discussed about what is the understanding of the fast and whether it's upon the kafir. I lived in non-Muslim land. Is it upon the kafir? As we discussed in the lesson, then for what's apparent, the fast is upon the kafir. It's an obligation upon him. Right? And so if it's an obligation upon him, then you cannot be serving him food during the fasting time. Why? Because you're aiding him in an action of disobedience. So you're aiding him whether you're opening the food place, whether you're serving the food, or whether you're delivering food to him. Now, and so you're aiding him in disobedience. So this is something where you shouldn't do. What you shouldn't do. And for what's apparent, that's the stronger opinion, that in terms of it's upon them to fast. Now, it's an obligation upon them to fast, even though they're kuffar. If now we say that it's not an obligation upon them to fast, it's not upon them to fast, then you serving them food would not be an issue, because it's not an obligation upon them. Now, and so what essentially you're saying is that if you was to work in these places, you'd have to make sure that you're not serving the Muslim, because a Muslim, you're aiding him specifically in disobedience. As a non-Muslim, you're aiding him in disobedience because it's not upon him to fast. However, as we mentioned, for what's apparent is that it is an obligation upon him to fast as well, even though he's a kafir. So because of that, you shouldn't engage in any of these things. And Allah knows best as well. The person should avoid this in order to be safe. Rather than sorry, as they say. So to avoid this in order to take a position of safety and now in the best way possible, inshallah. Allah knows best.
زمن بداية
بداية
يعني يوم الأول من الصلاة، يعني بين الأذان الأول والأذان الثاني هنا ما في وقت محدد. أحيانا 5 دقائق مثلا المساجد الآخر قبل المساجد الثالث، يعني ما في وقت معين، لأنه كان في بين بعض الأخوة وقعوا في يعني إفطار، يعني كان يؤذن
صلاة الفجر الأول يعني؟
نعم.
لأنه أذن الفجر الأول قصدك؟
لا لأنه 15 دقيقة قبل الصلاة يؤذن. هذا الأذان ليس هو أذان يقيم فيه الوقت.
فهو أذن ليش؟
أذان الفجر.
أذان الفجر؟
نعم، لأنه هنا ما في أذانين.
نعم.
أذان الواحد فيه فقط.
فهو أذن للفجر.
نعم.
طيب.
هو كان يأذن الفجر وبعد ربع ساعة صلاة الجماعة.
طيب.
وهو كان يشرب الماء، يقول إن في حديث عن شيخ فهمت اكمل المية يعني شرط المية فاكملها هذا حديث النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم.
هل هو أذن لدخول الوقت أو أذن
للإقامة يعني قبل الإقامة
أو أذن لأن في المسجد في بعض المساجد يؤذن قبل الصلاة بوقت معين يعني
نصف ساعة مثلا المساجد الأحناف يكونوا نصف ساعة قبل يعني قبل رمضان هم يصلوا 7 ولكن قبل يعني في رمضان يكونوا نصف ساعة فرق بين السلفي والآخر وأهل الحديث مثلا. فهمت قصدي فيها؟
والله
مثلا
فهمت نفس السؤال.
الآن يدخل وقت الساعة 6
طيب
ويصلوا 6 ونص
طيب
يعني نصف ساعة اللي في مجال ولكن في رمضان
ربع ساعة بين الأذان وفي بعض الناس يعني بعض الناس يأكلوا في حتى يسمع الأذان في المسجد قصدك. طيب لا يعني ما عندك سؤال لكن تريد أن أبين هذا عمر يعني؟
نعم السؤال الوحد يعني الوقت المعين
طيب
هو الوقت اللي أذان في المسجد ولا في المكتوب على الورقة يعني كيف يعرف الناس؟
أو كيف يميز بين هذا وهذا؟
نعم.
طيب. The question is about how do you differentiate between the time of the salah and when is the time of salah, and sometimes you find that some of the masajid the time of the salah is changed due to Ramadan. So what they may do is that they may essentially make the time earlier, and it's something you find in the summertime specifically. Now, I don't know if it happened here in Manchester, but in some of the masajid in London, they will be praying Salatul Fajr at maybe 1:30 a.m., for example. So they pray Salatul Fajr at 1:30 a.m. just in Ramadan. Now, just in Ramadan. But essentially, Fajr is like 3 a.m. in the summer. But they'll change the Salah time and the way that they would see this is that so you can have more sleep. Now, however, first of all, you can't play with the Salah times. What the Prophet mentions as well is that what you may find is that sometimes these Salah times are pushed back, all the way back, even to the extent that they push back past the actual time of Fajr, so that they leave a short amount of time between the adhān and the iqāmah. So the adhān is after the dawn, whilst Fajr and whilst the Salat and the iqāmah is a few minutes after. So they make their tibar and what they base everything on is upon the Salah. So I was asking, how do we differentiate between when it's truly the time to stop eating and begin the fast, and what these calendars say? Obviously the fact that it's so different and some of the masajid are so different in this regard is even more of an emphasis that the people should seek out to the best of their ability the Fajr with their own naked eye. So they should seek it out with their own naked eye. This is the answer. Then they should look for the dawn break and see the white thread as the beginning of Fajr, their own selves. However, if you know that the timetable is provided by a masjid, and it's provided by a masjid which is trustworthy, such as this masjid here, Salafi in Manchester, and it's provided by a masjid which is trustworthy, then that which they provide by way of the timetable is going to be based upon correct sightings and approximate sightings. So you can use these things, but the person should never be reliant upon these things. They should always try to seek it out themselves. In absence of that, and maybe in absence of the ability to do so, or in absence of the ability of their own selves to do so, or in absence of their ability to do so due to it not being clear, the skies not being clear, which is very common here in Britain, then they can go back to these timetables and use those timetables, allow those ways. But it has to be from places that are trustworthy and known to be trustworthy, not people that generally play games when it comes to the Salah time. And this is what you find in some of the masajid as mentioned. Wallah.
What were the 3 conditions for establishing Ramadan?
The 3. So I'm really mentioned 2. So the three, the third one is essentially similar to the first. But the three is that you complete 30 days of Sha'ban. Second is that you see the hilal. How many people see the hilal? One. And the third is that it's not clear. You're not able to see the hilal. But then of course, if you're not able to see the hilal, then upon you is to complete the 30 days.
But what about the hadith when you drink, if you hear the adhan, you complete your drink? Means the one in your mouth or just... Because some of the brothers used to have the bottle, they finish the bottle. I say, no, the time is finished.
No.
Why you keep they say, no, Shaykh Al-Bani say, finish your bottle.
What's the correct opinion in that regard? In Allah Ta'ala, is that which you have in front of you in terms of that which you're drinking, or you're in the midst of drinking or eating, but not something where you've got a big plate in front of you and you say, I'm going to finish this plate because it's from in front of me. No, it's what you're in the middle of eating, whether you're in the middle of drinking it, about to finish drinking it, or you have a mouthful of something, then you can complete that. And basically what is understood from this, and Allah knows best, is that it's not upon you to spit anything out due to the fact that you hear the adhan. Why?
Ustādh,
No.
what you mentioned about the trustworthy persons.
Yeah.
What would constitute as a trustworthy person? And could we, for example, if somebody just came in, we don't know who he is, he says he's seen the moon.
No, because you have to know him, of course. In order for them to be trustworthy, you have to know them.
Yeah.
And they have to be upright indeed. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be trustworthy in terms of riwayah, necessarily. But they know that when they speak of truth. And that it's known that they're trustworthy in terms of they're able to identify what the hilal looks like. Now, and so if someone came to you today and said, I saw the hilal of Ramaḍān, now then he doesn't know what he's talking about. Now, because we're still a Rajab. Now, so then if he came to you when it's closer to Ramaḍān now, and he said, I saw it, he said, you're the same guy that came at Rajab. So we're not going to say that you're trustworthy. Now, however, if it's known that the person has the ability, and it's known he has the ability to differentiate between when this is what the moon looks like, and he's trustworthy, known to be speak in a truthful manner, then when he does speak, we accept his speech. Allah. That's what we say is a trustworthy person. Allah. Now, جزاكم خير إخوة. وبارك الله فيكم وصلى الله وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.